Well, hello everyone. It's Ru and Stu in the shed. Over to you, Ruth.
Hi, good morning. We've got Amanda Higgins. Good morning, welcome. Or is it Higgins? Sorry if I said it wrong.
No S. Yeah, it's the unusual version.
Yeah. Who's a student at Regent's Park, studying to be a minister. And the first thing I'd like to say is, how did you come to faith? How did you?
Oh, well, I grew up going to my local Baptist church here in Wallingford with my parents, my family. But kind of having grown up in the kids ministry, when I started secondary school around 12 years old, I started asking all of these questions just of myself, like, where is God? Are all these things that people are saying true? And I kind of came to the decision that no, they probably weren't. It all sounded a little bit too good to be true. It sounded like a lovely fairy story that really didn't have any impact on the way that I was living my life. So I decided to live my life in other kinds of ways, but God wasn't having that. So when I was 14, I was brought along with my church's youth group to Soul Survivor, which that mainstay of many testimonies of people my age. I was really nervous to go. I almost pulled out the trip at the last minute, but it was amazing. Huge Christian festival, loads of different kinds of teaching, a kind of way of approaching God that I had never seen before. And God kind of picked me up and pulled me back. I like to think of it as he kind of kicked me over a brick wall, said, "You're not getting away that easily." So one of the final nights of Soul Survivor, I felt like a push from him to go and receive prayer. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. The heck is this? But yeah, had an experience of God, the fact that he was real and he saw me and had plans for me. It's like, okay, I guess we're going with this. I was like, either I'm insane or God is real. I went for the latter, and we've been working it out ever since.
Wow. Was that Soul Survivor?
You're a bit of a Soul Survivor person, Ruth.
Yeah. Was it in Bath that you went?
It was, yeah, the Bath and West.
Yeah. I've been there many times.
Yeah, I went almost every year for afterwards until the last couple. So I wasn't at the last one.
Right.
But I volunteered the year before that, and I didn't go the year before that.
So we our paths may have crossed there, you know, and we didn't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, you and quite a few other people.
Yeah.
One of the joys of it.
Yeah, brilliant.
You studied theology at Oxford. Sort of, how did that come about? Why did you decide to do theology?
So I think God had that as a plan for me, because when I was picking my GCSEs, I hadn't enjoyed doing religious studies. I'd become a Christian the year before I had to pick my GCSEs, and I hadn't enjoyed RS up until then. And then when I was writing my options down, I kind of had a moment. I'd written religious studies, I think, as my second backup option or something. I had a moment where I looked at my form and went, why am I not doing religious studies? I've got to do religious studies. And I moved it to my top priority. And like, I'm not quite sure why I did that. There wasn't a great deal of logic there. My RS teachers didn't know why I'd done that. But after I'd studied it at GCSE, I kind of realized I loved the subject. Like, I guess religion meant something to me now. The idea that God actually was around kind of meant it had a new meaning. But I also just loved it to study all the different aspects of it. So by the time I picked my A-levels, I already knew I wanted to study theology. And I never have regretted that decision. At every step, I'm worried that you get all these stories of people who feel like they've picked the wrong degree. But as soon as I came to do my degree, I was like, no, I love this. I love all the different bits of it. I love doing the language and the history and the textual studies and everything. So yeah, it's felt like I'm quite glad that God pushed me towards the GCSE, and we've gone from there.
I mean, I remember when I, having grown up with a pretty traditional evangelical faith, started studying theology academically. There can be a tension when things that you've always believed suddenly get challenged. Did you experience that?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a really challenging thing to do. Yeah, like source criticism really knocked me over, kind of, because academic theology loves picking at contradictions and inconsistencies and being like, what can we make of these? I was like, I didn't know these were here. What do I do? Which is why I'm really glad that my faith has grown from an experience of God rather than a theoretical kind of argument, because like academic theology does challenge all of those preconceptions and ideas, and I've kind of just had to several times go to God like, I don't know what is going on. I don't know what the answer to this question is. All these people are talking about this as if you don't exist, but I believe that you do, which means I believe there's an answer out here, and I believe it's like, even if I'm not going to find it, that you are still here in it somehow. And there's, yeah, I've always had questions about that. And it's a difficult environment to be in sometimes, because people do talk as if God doesn't exist and the Bible is just something a load of dudes made up because they wanted to manipulate people into doing certain things.
So how did you come to Kidlington Baptist Church? Was that chosen for you, or did you have, you know, how?
Yeah, it was chosen for me. Although I'm not regretting it in any way. It feels like a great match so far. When I came to train at Regents, I was not quite mandated, but strongly advised to do a college-based formation, which is where I study primarily at college like a full-time student and then go on placement. Because I was, I've been at Wallingford Baptist Church most of my life, got a little bit of experience at other churches, but the idea was that I go somewhere else to experience something different than I've done before. And Kidlington was the one that apparently matched up.
Well, just as a throwaway comment, I think you've done brilliantly so far. You've really put yourself about. You're always on the Zooms and things like that. So thank you for doing that. Now, Kidlington, of course, placements do come with a health warning. There was a chap called Phil Durant, which rhymes with current, we discovered on this programme, who came here as a student minister, and look what happened to him. So have you got your sort of career plan ready to come back in a few years?
Yeah, I'm sure I can fit it in, you know, go somewhere else, get some experience, bring it back to Kidlington. Once, you know, you've got over Phil, then.
So at what point in your life did you feel you were called to be a Baptist minister, and sort of what is the process from there?
Actually, when I became a Christian, that conversation that God had with me included several things, one of which was, and you were going to be a minister. And I walked away from that and went, nah, that's a boring job. Let's find something more interesting that kind of still fulfills what you said I should do. So yeah, and then it's been a process of kind of realizing through doing religious studies, through doing theology, through realizing how much I love doing all of this stuff, that actually it's not just something I'm being told to do, it's something I really feel God has formed me to do and is continuing to form me to do, all the different bits of it. So it wasn't formally until my second year at university, at that point when people start asking you, what are you going to do when you leave, that I actually committed to saying, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. But it's been a long process before that of kind of having it constantly in the back of my mind and being like, you know, maybe we can kind of do that on the side and like volunteer and some stuff, but get a job in the civil service or be a teacher or something like that. But eventually came around to the idea, actually, no, I think this is going to be my full-time job somehow, because it seems to fit in a load of ways I can't quite describe otherwise.
So how do you get from there to here?
So having kind of committed in my second year, I had to decide what denomination I was going to go for, because I've been raised Baptist, but at that time I was going to two different Anglican churches, both my college chapel, Oriel College, and St. Ebb's in Oxford. But decided for various reasons, including theological commitment and kind of ecclesiological style, that Baptist was the way I wanted to go. So in my third year, I started attending at New Road Baptist Church in the middle of Oxford. And also yeah, had that chat with my regional minister, had that chat with my minister at my home church, being like, I think this might be a thing, which was just a lot of conversations, and they seemed to believe me that it was a thing, and that I had the right gifts and convictions for it. And yeah, so got commended by my home church in Wallingford at just over a year ago now, the year after my degree, because I spent a whole year after I graduated kind of as a gap year, spending part of my time volunteering as a pastoral assistant at Wallingford Baptist Church, which was a sort of practical discernment, as well as time I needed to go through the ministerial process to get the commendation from the church, and then go to my ministerial recognition interview, which was supposed to be in a retreat centre in South Wales, except that got flooded. And then when they tried to reschedule it, we had a little thing called a pandemic. So I ended up doing my ministerial recognition interview on Zoom meetings, which was an interesting experience, but they also seemed to believe that this is what God was sending me to do and commended me to go to Regents.
I feel that KBC has been very good at recognising the full equality of women's ministry. Have you found any barriers in your way?
I'm really fortunate that Wallingford Baptist has always been a affirming church, and that the current chaplain of Regents Park, Esther Mason, was associate minister at Wallingford Baptist Church while I was pastoral assistant there. So we know each other quite well, but it's been really encouraging to have her go before me, and therefore to never be in any doubt that people are going to accept me as a woman in ministry. I know it's a thing, it's a challenge that I'm anticipating, but honestly, at the moment, I find it more challenging being the only woman doing a post-grad New Testament degree, which, yeah, I sometimes feel like I stand out in those rooms. But hey, I'm aware of it, and I'm not afraid to talk over people if that's what I need to do.
Yeah, good on you. I love what you said about academic theology, and I mean, again, my experience would be that it is challenging, but you come out of it stronger. One other thing which I've struggled with a bit, and I wonder whether you recognise this, if the Bible is a tool of your trade, at times there can be a tension between it being just a tool of your trade as opposed to being something which feeds your soul, if you know what I mean. I mean, how do you ensure you get the devotional content from the Bible as well as writing and preparing stuff the way I do in my job and you would do as a student?
Mm-hmm. Gonna be honest, not sure that's something I've worked out yet. It's something I'm very aware of, something I'm trying to do, but yeah, I'm not sure I'm there yet. I think I get a lot from doing the academic study, from working things out that way. But yeah, it's really hard to pick up a Bible and read it as it is without constantly asking questions about intention and background and context and contradiction and sources. And yeah, sometimes it's really hard to make that part of my brain shut up. The best experience I've had of reading the Bible for myself has been in those books that I haven't studied over the past few years, which makes it quite hard as the number of books of the Bible that I've studied is gradually growing. I'm really now confined to some of the minor prophets where I haven't done any work. So that's something I definitely need to work out. Maybe should pick your brain on at some point.
Well, I've only been a Christian 60 years, so I'm sure I'll manage to work it out eventually.
That's really reassuring, thanks.
Amanda, I wanted to ask you, what are you passionate about? What sort of things are you interested in? You know,
academically, professionally?
No, just, you know, if you've got interests that you do, you know, like I've got my knitting. I mean, I know that's very boring, but you know, things like that you like to do.
Well, I love my academic studies, but that's a boring answer. The real truth is that my non-work passion is Dungeons and Dragons, which I am cautious about mentioning because of some preconceptions that can be around that hobby. But I have a group that I met at Neuro Baptist, actually. So 3 of us are qualified or qualifying ministers out of the 4 of us, which I love. And yeah, we play every couple of weeks over Zoom. I'm currently playing a halfling thief. It's great fun. Talk about escapism. We've really enjoyed sessions recently. We've just been shopping without masks on. It's been great.
Brilliant. And what about, how's lockdown been for you? How have the lockdowns been?
I think in a lot of ways I've been really lucky. I'm locked down at home this term, which is not where I wanted to be. My room in Oxford has been abandoned, but I'm really lucky that I living in South Oxfordshire. Like, I can go in if I need to. I can pick stuff up for my room. I can pick up library books if I really need to. And my parents have been really supportive about that. Over the entire pandemic, I've had really different experiences and really different lockdowns. This is my only time trying to do a term from home. The November lockdown, nothing really changed for me because I was in Oxford and I could still go into libraries, so I was just getting on as normal. The first one, I was actually working as a social care worker in a local, it's not a residential home, but there's a few like adjacent houses where it was supported living for ladies with learning disabilities. I was doing that for a few months, and that meant that I was still going out to work because I was a key worker. Yes. So in some ways I didn't really feel the lockdown then because I was leaving the house still quite regularly and seeing people, albeit with masks on. So it's been a really interesting experience in different ways.
Yeah, and we asked if you could take 2 people into lockdown with you, which 2 people would you choose and for what reason?
Mm-hmm. Well, number 1, I have to say the author of the letter to the Hebrews, for 2 reasons. First of all, it would make my thesis so much easier if I knew who it was. Second of all, I'd love to pick their brains, on thesis stuff, on the book, but also I love the letter to the Hebrews for the way that it interprets tradition, the way they pick up their Jewish heritage and they work out who Jesus is through it. And I'd love to sit them down and be like, look at this world that we now live in. How would you talk about Jesus now? How would you reinterpret this tradition to talk about Jesus? My second option would probably be Mike Pilavachi, the founder of Soul Survivor.
Yeah.
Because he's obviously hilarious and I think would be a great lockdown buddy. I think we could cook and eat together and enjoy that.
And he likes his food, doesn't he? He does like his food.
He does. So we'd be able to enjoy meals. And also, again, he's a great guy to talk to. I'd love to pick his brains on Jesus and, work out more about faith with him.
Yeah.
And I reckon the 2 of them would probably get on.
Yeah.
I love the idea of you sitting waiting for the author of the Epistle to the Hebrews to walk in. You might be surprised who it is. I mean, Apollos, I didn't know it was you. Golly, really? Paul, did you really write in disguise your identity? Yeah, absolutely, Priscilla. Nice one, yes. Well,
I refuse to let anybody refer to them exclusively as he because I'm still holding out hope when I get to heaven it's going to be Priscilla.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do I remember correctly you've done a bit of rowing?
Yeah, I rowed for my first 2 years in Oxford at Oriel College.
Oh wow! So you don't row? You don't row now?
I'm signed up with the Regent's Boat Club, but I've only been out with them twice. What with COVID and all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hoping to do it next year and maybe even summer term.
I covered rowing at the Beijing Olympics for the Oxford Mail, and I had to learn because I knew nothing about it. Learning the difference between your doubles and your pairs and your quads and your fours and all your sculling and your rowing. But hey, know it all now.
It was very strange, yeah.
Very fit to row, don't you? It's very.
Well, I got fit. Yeah, I certainly wasn't to start with.
Goodness. So
we went out 6 times a week
in like a pretend row thing as well? You know what I mean? When you Yeah, so
Yeah, we have ergs, which is the static rowing machines you have indoors.
yeah.
And also at the Italy Sports Centre, there's the tank, which is a static concrete kind of mock rowing thing where your oars will have holes in so they can pull through the water and you don't go anywhere. And then that's full of mirrors like a ballet studio so that you can see how bad your technique is.
Okay, cool. And I wanted to ask, have you got a favourite Bible verse?
Yeah, I mean, continuing the theme of Hebrews, it's Hebrews 4:16. Let us approach the throne of grace with boldness. I've pulled it up here. Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. Which is just an incredibly powerful verse about approaching God. And I love, I actually translated chapter 4 of Hebrews for one of my submission pieces at undergrad and love the Greek in this particular chapter. You kind of lose it in the English, but that let us approach is prosekomatha, and it starts the verse, prosekomathaun, and it's very like, come on. It's got a lot of force that you can never quite get it in English. I tried to wrestle it into shape, but you can't quite manage it.
I think we might be running out of time, Ruth. It may be time for our final question.
Your final question is from Cromwell, my little dog, and he would like to know, do you prefer dogs or cats?
Dogs, of course. I've got 2 of them myself.
Great, thank you.
Oh, what have you got?
I've got 1 Cocker Spaniel and 1 who knows what Cyprus street dog.
Oh, cool.
Archie and Theo.
Oh, there you are, Cromwell. Maybe he'll meet them one day.
Very well behaved.
Oh, not always.
Well,
Just
thank you,
camera,
Amanda, for your time. That was really interesting. And hey, just keep watching, and we'll be back with another one next week.